All right, we are recording. Laura, I will turn it over to you.
Welcome, everyone, to the RSA Users Group meeting. My name is Laura, and I'm the director of the Dunlap Public Library. And as of just a couple days ago, I was elected your chair of the Users Group. Thank you so much. Please be patient with me during this meeting, as this is the first meeting. I'm sure there will be lots of questions of like, okay, now what? So thank you in advance for your patience. And thank you to Kendall for putting this agenda together, which helps us stay very organized and on task. So I will officially call this meeting to order. Our first task that we will do is to review and adopt the agenda. I hope everyone saw the agenda. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, or even something that you really want to make sure we mention? Anyone? Hearing none, then do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as written?
This is Alyssa Williams. I move to adopt the agenda as written.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. A second, anyone?
Second, Richard Young.
Thank you, Richard. Going to say all in favor. Let's say aye, or just say aye, you know, out loud.
Aye.
Aye.
Does anyone oppose adopting this agenda? I'm so glad to hear that. Let's go ahead to the Board of Directors report, and that would be
Minutes
to a
first.
list. I'm sorry?
We got to approve the minutes.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. So let's review and approve the minutes from May. Thank you, Kendall. I'm jumping back and forth between the actual agenda and your notes online. Any questions or concerns or comments on the minutes from our meeting in May? Even any typos? Speak up, please.
And you can also chat them. We have the chat windows open and people monitoring that.
Okay. Hearing no questions, concerns, or comments, is there a motion to approve the minutes from our May meeting?
This is Alyssa. I move we approve the minutes of the May meeting.
Thank you, Alyssa. Do we have a second?
Second.
Was that Faith?
It was.
Thank you, Faith, for seconding. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? Thank you, folks. Thank you for these notes here, Kendall. We should acknowledge the RSA staff anniversaries this quarter. Thank you, James, for being with us 9 years. Lisa for being with us 4 years. Patty for being with us 2 years. And Sarah, first year anniversary. Yay, Sarah. Okay. So now we will go to the RSA Board of Directors report from our, is it our current board president?
Yes.
Yes. So I will temporarily turn it over to Alyssa, who was just voted the board president.
Yes, thank you, Laura. This morning, the Board of Directors met, and their first order of business was to elect the board officers for the year. So I am taking over as president. Jeff Brooks from Pekin is vice president, and Jackie Holmes is secretary treasurer. So those are your new RSA Board of Directors officers. And then the only other big piece of business that you won't hear about today from Kendall's reports is we discussed the strategic plan and where we were, and we need to get moving on the membership level committee that Jeff Brooks is heading up. So there will be a call that will go out for people to participate in that committee. We do want to keep that committee small. I believe they are going to try to do an in-person meeting with social distancing and such here this fall. So we need to get working on this committee in order to kind of get some of the other pieces of the strategic plan started. So look for that. We're looking for representatives from the different service population sizes and whatnot. So that's all I have, Laura.
Thank you, Alyssa. And as Alyssa mentioned, some of this information will be going out in the near future. If you have any burning questions on these topics, jot them down. We might cover them during this meeting, or you could contact a board member for additional information if it's not covered in this meeting. So, okay, the RSA committee report. Are we just doing questions, Kendall, since there are no actual reports?
That's correct. There is a report from the RSA Day Committee. That was the one document that we had. Generally, how we do this section is that goes out in the package, and if somebody's got questions, they can answer them. Otherwise, we just move on with life.
So, okay, I'll take this opportunity to say, does anyone have any questions on the RSA report that was released? And you can type them into the chat if you don't want to say them out loud. Well, hearing no comments, or if there is one being typed, we can circle back to that. But let's move on. So, okay.
So the written package, this is the other package that we send out generally a week before the meeting. We will cover the strat plan updates somewhat quickly towards the latter part of the meeting. There's a list of the new parameters added July through May. So that's item types, home locations, those types of things. If you see anything on that list that you want to use in your library, email the help desk and we will add it to your workflows dropdowns. There has been a lot of interest, and we will discuss it later today in the meeting, about being a fine-free library. So we have a cheat sheet and some RSA guidance on that. Anna will lead a discussion about this topic a little bit later. We've had questions about the new item carousels or book rivers, whatever you want to call them, on the front pages of your RSA CAT pages. So there are some options on how those can be set up. Some options work better for small libraries. Other options work better for big libraries. Schools sometimes need things set up differently. So we have a book river cheat sheet. And again, if you've got questions or thoughts or want to talk about how your book river is set up, send an email to the help desk, and that cheat sheet will help you a little bit understand what our options are, and then we can explain it to you. Sometimes it's easier just to explain it on the phone and find out what you are expecting from that. And then the last list is, it's targeted towards RSA school libraries, because school libraries are, of course, getting back, maybe going back now or soon. But almost all of the training resources that are always available are also applicable to every other member library in RSA. So there's a couple of pages of YouTube videos, cheat sheets, links on the website to places where you can find useful information. That's what that last document is. Any questions? I don't see anything in the chat. All right. Oops, why am I not? There we go. Okay. We will Ooh, James, you might want to see who that is that just came in the waiting room. It's a very odd, I don't know if that's a phone number or what that is. We ran an election to fill some seats. We were supposed to, this is normally the election we run before the May meeting. As you all know, it was a little messy that time of year. So we pushed this back and delayed it. So we had 47 member libraries voting, which was down from last year, but understandable. We voted over the summer. A lot of school librarians aren't checking their email regularly over the summer. And B, well, y'all have other things to be doing in your library. So I'm not that surprised that the voting was down this year. Laura from Dunlap is our new users group chair, which you saw. And elected to the board as a new member. Laura also serves on the board. The users group chair and vice chair are board members as well. Elizabeth Wild from Henry is serving on the board again in the basic online at-large seat. She has not been on the board for many years. I can't even remember how long it's been, but at least during the, I think you were on the board, Elizabeth, when we were doing both, well, when we were doing the system migration, and I think you may have even been on the planning committee when we did the system migration back in 2006. So Elizabeth has been around.
I started on the board in 2007, I think, because I moved to Henry in 2006 in like October. And I was on the board when Alliance was breaking up and we were looking at people's basements to see if we could be there.
It's been a while, but you're back.
Yeah, I'm back.
And Gina and Jeff were both reelected to their seats. And we will be, like every year, running a board election. And for the users group vice chair, that will be in or about May of next year if you are interested in serving. All right. So let's talk about the RSA section of the meeting before we get to the library to library discussion part. So this is RSA's chance to talk about our system or processes that we're doing or new training or projects, whatever. We're going to talk about online payments first. So full online libraries for several years now have been, if they chose, your online RSA CAT page would allow credit card payments right through RSA CAT. We have 24 or 25-ish full online libraries that accept credit card payments online. When the new RSA CAT mobile app rolled out to everybody, it included online payments for all libraries. So if you are an automated library and your patrons owe money, if they have the RSA CAT mobile app on their Android or iPhone, they can pay online with a credit card. RSA breaks those payments out twice a year in July and in January. I just finished doing that about a week and a half ago. And we use the same rules as as if you took a cash or a check at the CERC desk. And so because all libraries in RSA now have this through the app, as we have time, we're going to go back through all of the full online libraries and add this to your RSA CAT profile. And we'll contact you when we get to your library for the approval of the wording of there's some notes on your RSA CAT page that you can customize if you want. So we'll be doing that slowly as we have time for full online members. If you do not have online payments in RSA CAT and would like that set up sooner and you're a full online member, send an email to the help desk and we will hook you up. No, Amy, as far as I know, family grouping does not work for paying bills yet. That question was around, in the RSA CAT mobile app, you can add your children, presumably your children. I mean, it could be your girlfriend or boyfriend or first cousin or parents or whatever. But you can add additional card numbers to the app and then be able to see all of their checkouts and holds and things. And it appears like it'll let you pay for those payments, but it won't let you pay for those payments. Any other questions on this topic? All right. We will be upgrading Symphony and workflows on the 23rd of August. So that is a Sunday night. It will happen about 11 o'clock at night, Sunday night, and will continue into early Monday morning. By the time you get in Monday morning, it will be finished. That's going to require a workflows update on all of your computers. The big additions this particular time, data control, which is something that only RSA staff members will use, is added to this version. And basically what that is a visual tool for the API command line tools that we use to do a lot of back-end batch processing. So we've been working with Circe for about 1.5 years during the beta process to help them design that particular tool, and we are very, very excited to have it. The patron last activity date is now configurable, and after we make the update, we will figure out what settings make the most sense and then update those. I believe one thing that makes a lot of sense is if the patron logs into Enterprise, it should probably update their last activity date, and I don't believe it does right now, so I think that's one of the things that we can turn on. We have a couple of libraries that use TechLogic RFID pads. Those are now supported, quote unquote, directly in workflows. Since we don't have a TechLogic RFID pad, I cannot guarantee that it is as simple as uploading or updating workflows and having it magically work. I think there's still something from the TechLogic software that needs to be running on the computer. But if you, I know Peoria has TechLogic. I'm not sure who else has. We will work with you guys to get that particular thing working better. And then the big thing that everybody will very much appreciate, there will be a new patron extended info entry on every user account called alert text or alert something. And basically, if you put a note on that account, whenever you open the checkout wizard or the display user wizard, that alert text will pop up a box, right? So a patron left their umbrella and you've got it behind the circ desk. Yes, you could put a note on their account, but you wouldn't know that that note was there unless you were in the patron account a lot of times. What this will do is if you put text in this box, when you open the checkout or display user wizards and scan their barcode or search them in the system, when they come up on the screen, the pop-up box is going to appear. This also adds to the display user wizard the alert pop-up. So if they are delinquent and owe money, when you hit them on the checkout wizard, it pops up a box, but when you hit the display user, it does not pop up a box for those. You'll also be able to add that as well. And so this is what this looks like. So on this account, I put many things on this account because I was trying to see what actually was going on here, but here's the alert pop-up line. So if this text if there's anything in this text, even if the patron was not delinquent and didn't owe any money, this account would not normally appear on the checkout window if they were not delinquent. But because there's text in the alert pop-up box or in the alert pop-up text area, this account's going to pop up in both the checkout and the display user wizards. So this will be your easy way to mark those patrons that you really need to get a hold of. Say their email address changed and bounced back from the system, or they got a new phone number, or you think they've moved in or out of the district, or you want them to be on the friends group, whatever it is, right? You can put an alert there and it'll pop up. The thing that's slightly different that we will need to train you guys a little more on, make sure you all understand how this works. Most of the time when people are cleaning these notes out, they just backspace over the note, right? And so they delete the note out, but the line is still there. If you delete the alert pop-up note with a backspace out and clear it, but that line still appears there, it will pop this box up with no data in it. in that particular alert pop-up line. So you actually do need to click in the alert pop-up text box and hit the little red X box on the modify patron to remove this alert. But that'll be coming out with the documentation after the upgrade, because once this won't be live the day of the upgrade, because once we do the upgrade, then we have to go back and modify all of the patron user account things to add this line. So it'll be a day or two before this actually works, and we'll send some documentation out with it when that happens. But the people who have already gone live on this version of workflows report that this is very, very popular with their staff, because a lot of times people want pop-ups and they want to be able to remember something the next time they see the patron. So this is your easy way to make that happen. Does anybody have questions about the workflows and Symphony upgrade on the 23rd? You can either unmute yourself and ask or type it in the chat window. All right, moving on. Something else we're currently working on is automatic renewals. We're running a trial with Normal. They've been live for about a month and a half, but when we put them live on this trial, everything had already been extended out till, I believe, about maybe the week before the end of July. So it didn't really do anything for the first couple of weeks. It is working now and has been working for about 10 days. Basically what this does right now, we're limiting it to large 13 libraries because we want to make sure that it actually does what we think it does and nothing else. Plus it requires a lot of setup work on our part. What we will be asking is that you take a look at your CERC rules and your renew rules, because if we're doing automatic renewals, if you've got a 28-day checkout and 4 renewals, the system on the 28th day is going to check that thing out again to the patron if it can. So if it can, it could, you know, give you 28 days, then 28 more days, then 28 more days, then 28 more days. And that's too many more days, right, for free. So we would ask that you limit to a max of 2 renewals and a max of a 21-day checkout. Normal right now is using kind of a mixture of between 7 and 21 days. So that all works there. Like for their, and some of their 7-day renewals for videos have 3 renewals, but that's fine because it's still only 21 days total. So the idea is we just don't want to give somebody an item that will automatically renew for, you know, 6 months is kind of what we're trying to get at there. It does require that we change your notices quite a bit, and I'll show you why in a minute, but you don't need a courtesy notice if the system's going to automatically renew and tell you about items that are automatically renewed. The system will also tell you when things are not renewed, right? So you're going to get an email of that. So you can basically drop your courtesy notices because you don't really want patrons trying to renew something when the system's going to do it automatically. We'll probably need to rework your overdue notice wording to say, you know, the system attempted to renew this item. It could not be renewed for various reasons. You know, it could be a hold on it. You know, you're at the end of your renews, whatever. It follows the same renewal options as if a patron tried to renew it in workflow or in RSA CAT. So we need to adjust your overdue notice wording a bit, and maybe even the timing of your overdue notices. And again, this is the same renewal rules as workflows in RSA CAT. It will not automatically enter an override. So if you tried to renew the patron in workflows and it asked for an override and you overrode it, the report cannot do that. And so from the patron's point of view, and I'm sorry the text on this is kind of small, but I was trying to get the entire email on the screen. From the date up at the top here, this whole center section, that is the email that the patron gets. So this one came from Normal. It came to me at 1 Make Believe Road in Bestville, Illinois. Some interesting things to know about this report. It starts with the items that failed to renew, and this text in red is the only thing that we can change there. There is no header text. It is just this section header for, you know, the section that the items failed to renew. So we tried several different wordings with normal and ran the report to see what looked like it made sense. And in the end, what made the most sense was a simple, these items failed to automatically renew, and then the list of the items. And then the second section is the items that were automatically renewed and their new due dates. So these items have been automatically renewed. And then down at the bottom is where you can put your text for your library down in the footer. The problem is that the failure wording does not always show. If all of your items renew, there is no failure wording listed. So you don't want to put important information in the header block for the failure warning, because if all your items successfully renew, patrons will never see it. Likewise with the successfully renewed wording, if you don't have any items that successfully renewed, this section does not show up. So it doesn't do you any good to put any important wording in the headers here, because it may or may not show up, or both of them may show up, and then that would be even more annoying. So this was the best compromise we could come up with for these two headers. And then the footer is where you can put all of your information. You know, we offer automatic renewals. You'll find items that were and were not renewed. Here's our phone number or email address if you have questions, that kind of thing. So this is what the notice starts with, and these are the three little bits of text that you can change. So again, it's only been running for about 10 days to 2 weeks with normal. I get a report every day, as does John at normal. John was talking with John the other day, and he says the patrons who have noticed really appreciate it. We're sure, you know, some patrons probably are not checking their email all that often. If a patron doesn't have an email account in their system, they may not even know it's been renewed unless they went online and looked in RSA CAT. So it's not perfect by any means, but it will automatically renew items up to the limit of the renewals. And again, we'll be working with the big libraries first, and then once we're sure we know exactly how this works and what all the other changes we need to make to the system is, we'll roll it out to the other full-on lines. Anybody have any questions on this particular thing? All right, seeing none. What is next? Okay. If you were here in the May meeting and or at some of the RSA roundtables after the May meeting, as things were changing very quickly and we weren't really sure what was going on with the world, I had mentioned that for now we were just doing online training and we weren't doing any in-person training, and that we were working to convert our courses over to be online, rather even the big one like the basic cataloging course. We were even working to convert that one over because we weren't sure how long we would need to be running online training. Well, as we all know, the world is not perfect. We are waiting today to find out if the Peoria area is moved backwards a phase in the COVID-19 rules, and if so, what the actual effect of that will be on not only on me, who I'm in the office right now, but for our libraries as well. I've made the decision that it makes no sense for us to try and be out in libraries frequently for the rest of this year. It just doesn't make sense. The last thing we need is for either an RSA staff member to get sick and come visit you, or vice versa for one of your staff members to be sick and then get one of our folks sick. We just don't have the manpower right now to be able to deal with that. So for the rest of 2020, we're going to do basically all online training. We've been adding new video courses to our YouTube channel. Some of those links you can see in that printed school document. We will continue to do very, very limited on-site training. If you are a new or upgrading member and you change phases, Anna was out at Ransom Memorial showing them how to do patron entry. When they are ready to go live, we will need to go back out and do CERT training for them. But that's because they have no one in their library who knows how to do this. So somebody has to go train them on how to do it. So in cases where it's a new or upgrading member who is changing state like that, I will approve somebody to go out and do training. The other case would be like a school has full turnover and nobody knows how to check a book out. Clearly, we have to get you trained so you can check a book out, right? So in cases where libraries have lost all their staff and they no longer can use the system, we'll come out and train you. But we are limiting it to 4 people when we go out and do training. Everybody's got to wear a mask unless you have some sort of note from a doctor. No food, very few breaks. We want to get in and out as soon as we can. We need to practice social distancing. We're going to be bringing laptops and probably a projector to try and keep us as far apart as we can be. And again, this is all just an effort to be safe. And as we talk about that, RSA bought webcams that we can check out to libraries that are taking more in-depth online training. So that's really kind of targeted at the basic cataloging course. That's a course that'll be 3 days long, probably take 2.5 to 3 hours per day. And we need to be able to see you on camera on Zoom as we're teaching that class to know if we've lost you. If you've wandered off somewhere, you know, and you're not even paying attention, or if you're just confused, if we don't have that visual feedback to know, I need to back up and start over, or I need to ask you some targeted questions to help get back on track. That's a must. You can't do a 3-day long training and not be able to see the people that you're training with, and they need to be able to see you to keep just to make it work better. When I was in the Air Force, I did a lot of distance training, and that's the one of the biggest takeaways ever is, you know, if you've got a one-way pipe, that does not work well. So we even made the investment to get some webcams so that we can make sure that everybody at least has a minimal level of equipment taking this basic cataloging course. So there'll be more to come on that as we go. I think Anna either has or will be shortly sending out a list of the training classes. We've got virtual office hours we'll be scheduling. And those, again, are you have a question for member services, you want to just drop in on Zoom, ask the question, hear the answer, and log off. That's what virtual office hours are for. And if we need to run roundtables, we will do so. We're not, Anna, shake your head yes or no. We haven't scheduled any roundtables, have we? Kind of.
The school one we have scheduled internally, but we have not put out to listserv yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think so.
Okay, so we do have a roundtable for schools coming up in August, late August, mid-August, something like that. But as far as another like virtual roundtable, we're kind of waiting for a topic, right? So if all of a sudden we get rolled back on our COVID-ness and delivery can't run, we'll probably have a roundtable, right? So if you've got a topic that you think would help for RSA to discuss in a bigger group, send it to us. If it's a good topic, we'll set up a roundtable and we'll have one. That's the purpose of those roundtables, is to kind of focus in on specific issues or specific areas of help versus the virtual office hours that we just schedule for you to drop in and ask questions. So that's kind of where we're going to run through the end of 2020, and towards the end of 2020, I think we'll all be able to reassess and kind of see how things are going as we move forward into the future. Any questions on that? All right. Where are we at? Om. This is the calming part of the show. Om. Om is the OCLC Holdings Manager, which is replacing the Mark of Quality. Mark of Quality did their last upload from the RSA database to OCLC in June, either late June or early July, can't remember. But they have retired. They kindly stuck an extra year on their work lives to make sure that consortia in Illinois could continue to bulk update our holdings to OCLC while we developed our own tool, which we have now done. Swan did the bulk of the programming work, but all of the consortia in Illinois were involved in this process because we're all going to be using it. Swan has been using it. I believe most of the other consortia have either already run once or are running in August. RSA's first run is going to be in mid-August. Assuming everything goes well, you will notice nothing. That's what we want. You should never notice anything other than, oh, your OCLC holdings match your RSA holdings. That's the point of this. So we will run our first run in mid-August. I'm sure we will put an email out after we learn the results of that, just to let you know how it goes and to say, you don't have to worry about this. It's just automatically happening. Or we'll put out an email that says, if you're in OCLC and you notice things don't look right, we'll get it fixed eventually. One of those two outcomes will occur, but we're pretty sure it will be the you will notice nothing outcome. Any questions on OHM? Good, that means I can stop talking. My voice is going. So now we are going to talk about the member submitted topics. So I put an email out a couple weeks ago asking if anyone had topics that you all wanted to talk to each other about or to RSA about. And beyond the topics that you had submitted, if there were things that came in my email otherwise that I thought were a good question and like, you know, something that no one would know or no one had asked for years, and I'm like, oh, I bet nobody remembers this. Sometimes those snuck in as well. But we are going to start this off with Anna talking about going fine free, your thoughts and your experiences, and she can talk a little bit about the you're welcome, Anna. I didn't tell you about this. She can also talk a little bit about the little cheat sheet that we just put out in the package today. And while you do that, I'm going to go get something to drink.
Okay, so I will be winging it, as Kendall mentioned. But fortunately, I have my cheat sheet, which it was part of the users group packet. I think it's in the document number 2. But basically, we get a lot of, questions of, just I'm going fine free. What do you need? What do I need to do? Or I'm considering going fine free. What should I explore? So we've started a little bit of a cheat sheet. It kind of starts with an explanation of how circ rules work, and things like that. And most of it is kind of advice of just really, familiarize yourself with your current circ rules and renewal policies and consider what changes you wish to make. Libraries often, there are some consistent things that fine free libraries do typically want to do. They typically want to possibly reduce the number of renewals that are permitted, eliminate a grace period, since that's not necessary since you're not charging fines anyway. Libraries typically, reduce the amount of time between a library's checkout, before an item goes into lost status, since that's kind of the only way that you hold a user suite to the fire to get the item back. So typically they'll kind of reduce that time period. You'll want to adjust notice text wording. You may want reports on what your current fines are like, kind of a breakdown of different bill types and how many fines are just overdue fines, how much of it is lost stuff, how much of it is weird little fines for copies, or you had to replace a DVD case or things like that. And then, just kind of information about, that we can help you by removing pre-existing fines in bulk and things like that, and providing reports, and, what to do if you use collection services, and, that sort of thing. So this cheat sheet, which I will not, burden you by reading aloud because it's like 4 pages long, is available in those meeting documents. So if that is something that you have been considering and want to know kind of where to start thinking about this, because a lot of the questions we get in member services is just sort of, I may be at the very beginning of thinking about this. What do I need to know, about it? So that is sort of what we have created. I think that's all I can really say about it at this point, but hopefully that is helpful. So I think this is the part where you share now any thoughts and experiences that you may have.
This meeting is going to go really quick if nobody has any thoughts to share, which may be your intention.
We could start picking on people or calling on people.
Are there any libraries on that have gone fine free?
Lexi at Washington here, we're fine free. Well, we're late fee free.
Could you expand on that?
If I must. So, God, when did we start this? We rolled it out when we reopened the building to the public. Basically, we're just not charging for any overdue fines. So we still have fees for like copying, faxing, that kind of thing. Anything that is 14 days overdue automatically becomes lost. And then, as before, if patrons bring it back, then it comes off of their account. But setting that, lost time is slightly shorter than before was helpful because it's the only, well, like I think Anna said, it's, what do you say, hold their feet to the fire, I think. So, that way patrons can't have a ton of books, lose them, come back, and then check out more. By the time you lose one book, you're going to be above that $5 fine block limit in almost any situation. So, I mean, we haven't had any problems with it so far. My staff was very disappointed by the lack of fanfare that we got from patrons. Like we were really, really excited about it, and patrons are just kind of like, oh, that's nice. And then, Bloomington and Normal got written up in the paper, so my staff was very grumpy. But otherwise, it's been good. I mean, our patrons, I would say it's largely positive, but they're not jumping for joy or anything like that.
It's been good for Brown. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think the timing may have been against you on that, whereas in terms of patrons being very impressed.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. And then apparently Joel is going to get all the money that I'm not getting. He's going to start charging double fines, he says.
We went fine free. Brown County, we went fine free in January, February, and it went very smooth. Of course, we were closed down for quite a while, so but we were open a while before it happened, and it's going really well. The patrons are thankful for it, and so we have no regrets. We do have a box where people can make donations if they feel guilty about not paying the fine, and so I know we kind of took that idea from Brimfield, I believe. They have a box, and so if people feel like they want to make a donation because they were overdue, then they can, and some do, and that's fine, and we thank them for it and move on. But we're bringing in as much money from the donation box as we were from fines, so it's fine. We're not going to make it or break it based on the fine, so it's not a big deal. So I think it was a great service for our community, and they do appreciate it. So I'm glad we did it.
This is Jenny Severe from Peoria Public Library, and we're in a final review stage with our board. This month they'll vote on it, and I don't know if we'll start right away in September or what, but I have a question for people who've been doing it for some time, if there's anybody out there that can speak to this. I feel like I don't have the figures to back this up, but I feel like we have more of a problem with lost items than we do with fines keeping people from checking out. And I wondered if libraries saw that going fine free reduces the amount of lost items.
I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
Go, Richard.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that it reduces that, but I think there is a stigma. I think I found out that oftentimes when people had owed a fine, and our fines maxed out at $2, so our fine wasn't that high compared to a lot of libraries on a book. It was 10 cents a day for, and after 20, it maxed out at $2, so it wasn't a big deal. But there were people that, when they did have a book that was, or they had books that were overdue, they wouldn't come into the library. They would always put them in the book drop because they didn't want to face us. And then a lot of times not even bring them back. And when they would talk to me though, or my staff, we told them, hey, we want the books. I could really care less about the fine. I'll waive the fine, get rid of the fine. You just bring the books back or the material back. And we negotiated with several people that way. So that's why that was part of our consideration for going fine free, because we didn't want that stigma. Even though it was a small amount, people were like, I don't know, I guess almost embarrassed. They didn't really say that, but embarrassed or didn't want to pay it. Maybe some couldn't pay it, but some, more often than not, it was just people embarrassed about it and didn't want to face us. So those people that owed large fines invariably would bring them when the library is closed or put them in the book drop rather than come in person. So that drove our experience. So I'm going to say it might help that a little bit, but of course it won't ever stop it totally. So for what it's worth, that's what I know.
Well,
This is Gina.
Go ahead,
This is Gina from Fond du Lac. Our board gave us the go-ahead at our last month's meeting to, basically I kind of took the idea and the premises of the idea, but didn't actually go through rewriting the whole policy until they told me they were on board with it for the most part. So they'll approve a policy here at the end of August. I think in September, assuming time and effort allows us to, we'll be doing like a fresh start type thing in September. Obviously, we're probably like everybody else checking in everything fine free right now anyway because of quarantine issues. But by the end, and kind of soft launching the fine free in September with a super official announcement at the end of September after we make sure we got all the kinks out of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there was a study that a library had done, posted on the consortia listserv for Symphony libraries. And that particular study, that was the surprising finding, was that the number of items going lost in their library dropped something like 50% when all the fines were removed, because people could just bring something back and didn't have to pay any money for it. And so the only conclusion they could draw was that people would rather have the fine on their account and not come into the library and keep the book. But when that barrier was removed, then more of their materials came back. So whether or not that's everybody's experience, I don't know. But that was one of the big takeaways from that particular library study. That and the fact that after about a year, the number of unique patrons to their library had gone up 10 or 15%, and they thought it was again due to the same reason, the fact that there were no fines.
So we are not fine free, and I don't know if we're going to or not, but I found just in talking to a lot of patrons, they don't understand that the fine will stop the minute they bring the stuff back. So if they don't have the money to pay, they just keep the book. And I've tried to at least communicate that if you bring it back, the fine will stop getting bigger. So I think in some cases, the number of things going lost will go down because, they don't have to have, I think they both don't understand that the fine will stop and that the computer or the library will remember. You don't have to pay it that instant. And I'll be interested as I watch the area ones going. I think it may be a push that my board will then jump on to. where they wouldn't a couple years ago when we talked about it.
All right, from chat, it looks like Kathy Rogie said it was a very easy transition, didn't have any problems. Many are grateful. Joel's going to start double charging for fines since he can now. Kathy says again, there were the DVDs going fine free was nice and they've seen more donations. So there you go. All right, let's move on to the next question. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. The next question is mine, and then Laura will run the rest of these. So my question is, for school libraries that are on the call, and there will be a survey going out to school libraries later in the month about this, but do you yet know what you're doing for the fall, number one? Number two, do you need our help? Can we change your circ rules? Do we need to change your hold rules? Do we need to change your fine rules? Excuse me. Is there something RSA can do to help you deal with whatever your new school library situation may or may not be this fall? So first off, I can't read down the list and know who everybody is, but if you are a school library and you have some idea of what's going on this fall, if you could chime in and let us know, I'd appreciate that. This morning in the board meeting, our two school libraries were doing different things, which is not surprising. I have a feeling most of you are doing different things. So if you could either type in or unmute yourself and talk, that would be great. Guessing not many school libraries. Well, for those of you that are here, you will not, if you're in a public library, you won't see that school library survey go out. That we'll send that out only to the school libraries. Just understand it'll be going on. If you have a intergovernmental agreement or something with your school library, good luck. I don't think really anybody knows what's going on with schools at this point in time. Hopefully we'll learn soon. All right, moving on. Laura, the rest of these questions were all ones that came in from one person that emailed me and said, ask a question, or they're kind of a conglomeration of several people who emailed a question to me and I sort of combined them into one question. So Laura, take it over.
Thank you very much, Kendall. Well, folks, I do hope that you will chime in when you have something to say and even chime in when you have a question. This is the users group meeting, and so the users should talk amongst ourselves. It will be fun, I promise. And if we were, actually in person, I'd pass out Hershey's chocolate to everyone, but we can't do that right now. So let's talk about cutting hours. I know many of the public libraries out there decided to cut back on hours, perhaps a little, perhaps a lot, when they reopened or are shortly planning to reopen to the public, reopening the doors to allow the public in. Talk about that. If you did that, do you have something that went over very well? Have you had complaints? Any comments at all about cutting hours? Kathy, would you like to add something? I'm gonna start calling on people.
This is Amy G. in Carthage. We actually added morning hours for seniors and they seem to really appreciate that. So we're trying to decide, we normally have different hours, summer and fall. So now we're trying to figure out our fall hours, if we will continue with the early morning hours and if that will take the place of some of our regular evening hours or not.
That's a good comment. Thank you very much, Amy. I remember that was discussed, I think at the last users group meeting. It might have been a roundtable, the concept of adding or simply being open for specific hours for senior citizens in the morning. I remember us talking about that a number of months ago.
This is Elizabeth and Henry. I'm with Melody from the comments. We cut our hours a little bit, but that was planned back in March. We made that in March, possibly actually even in February. No, I think it was March. We had the, starting Memorial Day. It was not related to this. It just all happened to coincide. I did go to the board somewhere in the middle and we altered the motion so that we started the new hours whenever we reopened. So if we reopened mid-May, we weren't going to go back to old hours for a week and then switch on Memorial Day. And it's been fine. And we did that because the board is very insistent on 2 people in the building and minimum wage and declining EAV. So.
Well, thanks for adding that, Elizabeth. And thank you for the folks typing into the chat. Melody says that they have reopened for the same hours that we had planned on prior to COVID. They were slightly less than last summer, but had made the decision prior to the current situation. Sarah in Jacksonville says that they decided to cut hours from closing at 9 p.m. back to 6 p.m. so they could have more staff during the day and no complaints. And that you do have a senior hour from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Jane in Galesburg says that your building opens to the public starting at 1 p.m. and your phone rings off the hook in the morning. So I wish you well on that. And Kathy, thank you for your comments. You're not open to the public evening or Saturday hours because you only have 1 staff in each location, but you still have a staff member to answer phones and do curbside. Oh, you hope to have volunteers to help when you decide to open those hours to the public sometime in the fall or winter. Well, thank you. Thank you, folks, for those comments. Once again, this is a question. This is a situation that is definitely individual to each community, but that doesn't make it easier sometimes to make the decisions. And so for those of you out there who are still thinking about cutting hours, if you're thinking about offering different things, please feel free to just reach out to other folks, to the folks on the list today who have either spoken or because I'm sure anyone would be willing to chat with you a little bit, bounce some ideas off of you. That's what we're here for, here to help each other. So if anyone has any additional comments on that, we can always circle around. But yeah, we'll go on to our next topic. Oh yes, the school districts. For those of you who are representing schools, or for those of you who are in public libraries who have any kind of agreement with a local school district, could you please share any thoughts, advice even what you have recently done that went well. I guess I'll start by saying that my local school district, Dunlap Public Library, which is not even part of RSA. They were once, but they pulled out a number of years ago before I got my position at the public library. And the school district itself, just, they don't even know what they're doing. They've had a number of different suggestions, and then they voted on one thing. There seems to be a huge backlash, and so they might be going another direction or voting on something else. So I'll be honest with everyone, I haven't even reached out to make any kind of communication, because the administration and staff at the school district are just so busy. So that's what's going on with me. Well, I don't see any comments in the chat on this topic. So once again, if there is anyone out there who is frustrated, who has any concerns, who doesn't know quite where to start, speak up. We'll do our best to connect you with someone who does have some good experience with this, but just speak up. Send me an email, send the help desk an email, and just say that you need help with this topic.
This is Gina at Fond du Lac. This is just a heads up. So we've been in talk with our basically elementary junior high district, as their school librarian is looking to figure out reading for their students, electronic. And so we have tumble books. We've had tumble books, I don't know, since the days of the Libraries Matter tumble books from Alliance. And obviously they took the passwords and stuff away in the spring, and that helped out our teachers a lot and stuff like that. I don't get the impression that they're doing that here in the fall. So they reached out to tumble books as far as a school subscription went. And then they brought up, Tumble Books brought up, I don't know if you've ever seen their emails about public school partnership kind of subscribe together business. It has a name. And what I can't seem to understand from them, and maybe somebody else has had different experiences, they quoted the school price. I know what my price is. If we were to partner together, the price is actually higher than if we were to do it separately. And I pushed back on that with them a little to ask them to explain them, like, from here, it seems like that's the case. And they're like, yes, that's the case. And I'm like, apparently you have to have, so that school district has 6 buildings plus ours. So if you have a school district that's smaller than that, it doesn't seem even anything that big is enough to get the price cheaper than if you just both go it alone. Just as a heads up. If you guys have a different experience, let me know, because I feel like perhaps the gal who's helping us, I'm not real sure.
Gina, you cut out on me for a minute there. You were talking about ABC Mouse, correct?
No, I'm sorry, Tumble Books.
Oh, Tumble Books. Okay, yes. We, several years ago, it was when our previous director was still here, so it's been 3 or 4 years ago at least. We had our schools were using Tumble Books like crazy. And then they went to this wanting the schools to pay for it, but then they offered it to us, and the cost for ours was astronomical. I mean, it was going to go from, we were paying, I don't know, I want to say less than $2,000, and to include District 150 in it, they wanted to charge us like $18,000. And so we just had to tell District 150, sorry, we can't afford it, you can't afford it. And now it's only available to our card holders.
Yeah, when they quoted us, the price per building actually went up when we partnered versus if like, versus if it was separate. It was kind of, I don't know, it was weird.
That is odd. But thank you for sharing those experiences. I have no idea what the answer is, other than some people at Tumble Books might be randomly generating quotes with random number generators. Kind of sounds like it.
The most amazing thing to me was that they were, and I don't know enough about technology to know how easy or hard this is, but they were blocking schools. As if teachers were using it at school, they were able to block the IP addresses for the schools from using our, even if the teachers were using their own library cards, they could block it by the IP address for the school. And so, but it took them a couple, 3 years to get through all the schools before they figured out what was happening. So we'd have teachers call and say, I used to be able to do this and now I can't. I think we haven't had those calls lately, so I think they've figured everybody out. But I don't know how they managed to do that, but that was how we figured out that they were even stopping people from using it.
That's kind of shady.
I thought so too.
That's not cool. Any other comments on school districts? John has shared in the chat that at least his local school district, they're focused on a lot. I mean, we're focused on a lot as well, and the school districts have have plenty of things that they're concerned about too. So. Even as Kendall said earlier regarding the data that he hopes to collect from the school districts, we all might have to give them extra time to respond to emails or figure anything out. And we all know that inherently. So thank you again for your comments, folks. So I think we'll move on to the next question. Let's see here. What was our next question? Oh, staff member issues in general. What are we dealing with now? I did get a comment from someone, an additional specific question here about policies and procedures related to patron bankruptcy. So let's start out the conversation with that. Has anyone dealt with dealing with a patron declaring bankruptcy? Do you have any set policies or procedures on that subject? Personally, I have had, even in just my 1.5 years at Dunlap, I've had 2 notifications from a patron who had declared bankruptcy. Admittedly, I did not develop a written policy, but in each instance, I was actually just impressed that that individual listed the library as a place where they had debts, because their debts with the library were less than $20. Each of them was less than $20. And based on the advice that I received from our library's attorney, I simply wrote those off. With my head of circulation, I just erased the fines. I included a note saying that I erased them because of bankruptcy, and that's all I did, because the lawyer said it would cost us, a couple $100 to try to get that money back in any way.
So this is Gina. That was my question. I understand, like, if it's debt in that it's overdue fines or something like that. My concern, I guess my grump about it, is if they have items that they haven't returned. So those have been billed as lost. And so is the action then to remove those items or to take the bill away from that? Because it seems to me that if you owe us money, but you aren't like outstanding, fine. I can wipe your fines. I can take an old collection fee off of there, whatever. But it seems to me that the bankruptcy shouldn't forgive them if they still have those items, and shouldn't allow them use of the cards until somehow those items either are returned or made good on, or even if we can't charge them for them, can we still block their card in some way? Because I don't know, I have an email out to Phil too, because I'm like, I'm not really sure. Apparently in the past, all we've taken everything off and just basically made them clear and good to go. But I don't know, I'm having a bit of a ethical drama with that.
No, I understand that, Gina, I really do, because, yeah, if it's the case like I dealt with, it's less than $20 in overdue fines. But what the thing that you're describing, I really understand that that's not ideal. This person took items and they have not returned them. They should pay for them in some way, even if it's just give us $2 a week until they're paid off or something. I back you on that. That makes sense. According to the chat here, it does look like some folks have either a written policy or procedure. Gina, would you like to throw your email address out there for folks to email you their policies or procedures for you to look over, see if that could be applied to your district? Thank you for those who commented on that. Thank you, Melody and Kathy. That's definitely, writing policy. It's always good to have some examples from other districts. But of course, talking it over with the lawyer as well. Thank you so much, Gina, for putting your email on there. Jane, Melissa, thank you for offering. Feel free to email Gina the documents that your library has. So, okay, what are the other things that you are dealing with now? Any other topic? Do you feel particularly proud of a topic, an issue, a problem that your library faced that you'd like to kind of pat yourself on the back? You want to share that with everyone and perhaps share some advice? Let's see here. Okay, any comments at all? Let's go to the next one. Thank you, Kendall. So let's talk about staff and patron stress, because we've all got stress. It's very high right now. It has been for a while. How have you noticed that this affects you, not only you as a manager and coworker of your fellow staff members, but how have you noticed that it's affected patrons? Have you been able to assist patrons in any way, or as we've all heard, have you had some negative patron interactions? Well, thank you. Yep, that's the next topic. But
these two go together.
Yeah, feel free to share. Have you had any positive patron interactions? I am so glad to hear in little conversations or emails that I've been a part of that a lot of people have said that their patrons are grateful, their patrons are so happy that the library building reopened, etc. And that's wonderful. And I hope that warms everyone's heart. If anyone cares to share any particular example, or even if you would like to share a negative example, and how you overcame that. That would be great. Well, Courtney shares that she got a 10-minute lecture. Well, sorry, Courtney, you can't get those 10 minutes back from your life. Sorry how to do that. And what Melody said, yes, patrons were very happy once you started curbside. It was nice to know that you were missed. I am glad to hear that. That's always very nice to hear that people really did miss us. And my board actually asked me as we were starting to reopen our building again, my board, I'm sorry, no, it was after our building had been reopened for about 4 weeks. They were asking me, oh, well, what are people checking out? You know, school isn't in session, so what are they checking out? And of course, I kind of gave them a look and I said, it's a lot of movies and novels. And people are just bored. They are bored. They want more books to read. They want more movies to watch. Yep.
I've had patrons tell us how great since the COVID thing.
Okay, I think I missed a little bit of that, Faith, but your patrons are just grateful that you're open.
They have been to me anyway.
I'm glad to hear that, Faith. Thank you for sharing. Bringing it back around to the first part of the topic, does anyone have anything they'd like to share regarding staff, regarding managing staff, dealing with staff stress levels? Even if you're asking for advice, you know, let's not get too very specific because this meeting is being recorded. So don't get too specific, but if you would like to share something.
Lots of good comments in the chat.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Laura, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear
Okay.
you now, Michelle.
Okay.
What would you like to add?
I want to talk about all of our patrons are very, very happy that we're open. They were very happy when we started curbside. We opened the building on the 27th. Honestly, we have as many people still using curbside as coming into the building. But the people who are coming in are very, very happy to come in. But my staff is at the point, they are so stressed out. They thought they could do this, and now a week into it, they don't think they can do it. And we have a staff meeting tomorrow, and I think they're going to tell me that at my board meeting on Monday, I need to tell the board that they're not doing it anymore. They're banned. I think they're going to band together and say, I have 3 staff. So, you know, it's not, and those 3 staff are, you know, working all the time. And so if they don't want to work, we can't be open.
Yeah.
And so I think what they're going to say is we are willing to do curbside, but we can't take the stress of people being in the building. I'm not positive, but from a few things that they've been saying, I think that's what they're going to tell me tomorrow. And I'm just wondering, are other people's staff that stressed that they, and what have you done about it? I guess I'm trying to be encouraging, you know, and thank them for all their hard work and for, you know, cleaning after people and, you know, doing everything that they're having to do. But they all said last week was just, they went home every night so stressed that they just don't want to do it anymore.
Michelle, is it, is the stress specifically coming from interactions with the public? Is it just remembering every little thing that we have to remember now? Clean that, don't touch that, clean that, make sure that is fresh. Is it the extra tasks?
No, I think it's the fear that they're going to get sick, that somebody's going to bring it into the library. Elmwood now has 12 cases, which we didn't really have very many before, and now we've gotten, I mean, 12 is a lot for our little town, and so I think they are just scared and don't want to get sick and are afraid that somebody who doesn't know that they even have the
That's
virus
true.
is going to come in, and then somehow they're going to end up getting it. So I think that's what it is. I really don't think, I think a little bit maybe has to do with the fact that they're, you know, cleaning when they've never had to clean before. That's not their job. We have a janitor, but of course the janitor isn't there during the day. They're only there in the evening. They come to clean. So I don't know exactly, since they haven't really talked to me about it, but that's what I think, just from hearing some comments. So
Yeah. I see in the chat that people are definitely chiming in. They are also saying that their staff members are stressed. I knew that this was definitely a topic that everyone is dealing with. And all I can say is, Michelle, I wish you luck, and definitely listen to your staff, because it's no fun to suddenly be a one-person library when you're used to being like a 4 or 5 person library. So perhaps, I'm sure there can be a compromise of some kind. Reduced hours perhaps, or going back to curbside service for a set amount of time. I thank you very much for the folks in the comments. I do want to do a shout out to I think Sarah down in Jacksonville commented about the enforcing masks with patrons. And that kind of goes into the next slide a little bit. There can be some negative interactions from enforcing masks with patrons. All I can say is, folks, stand firm, stand your ground. Wearing a mask properly is completely the right thing to do. And even those of us who were bullied in junior high, just because we were right doesn't mean we still are not bullied, But what I'm getting at is, I'm trying to boo you up. I'm trying to give you an electronic hug and say, fight the good fight, make them wear a mask. You can do it. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Or just walk away. Like, really, just if someone starts screaming at you, just walk away. I don't know what to say. Do what works for you, but please, oh, please say something. I've said something in stores. I've gotten dirty looks. I've definitely said things at my own library when I see someone wearing a mask not properly. I say something. You are a library manager. Many of you are library directors. You're allowed to say something. Please do. Please do. It will help stop, slowly but slowly, it'll help stop the spread of this disease, which is in a way frightening. So, okay, additional comments here. So, yes, thank you for your comment, Mary Fisher Miller. Strictly enforcing masks, glad to hear it. Curbside is available. I hope that more folks are doing that option, saying you're not allowed in the building if you're not wearing a mask.
At Washington, we are strictly enforcing masks. My very strong suggestion, though, if you are talking to patrons who don't want to wear a mask, don't get involved in a debate. They don't care what you have to say if they don't feel that they need to wear a mask and you think that they do. Like, I mean, I personally don't feel that it is my place to educate people on this, but whether you do or do not, your patrons don't give a damn. If you think they should wear a mask, just stick with it's the library policy, and if you don't like it, you can take it up with the board, because they couldn't. You're not going to convince anybody that wearing a mask is the right move. All you can do is enforce your policy.
Thank you, Lexi. That's actually very true. It is unfortunately unlikely that we are going to change anyone's, entire worldview just in the space of 10 seconds. However, I agree with you. Just point out that it's policy and they have the right to step out of the library if they don't want to follow policy. So, okay. Any other comments, questions, or concerns regarding staff stress, patron help, patron stress? And this is a specific question that we have here that Kendall put up. Does anyone have any additional specific answers? I thank you, Lexi, for answering this question. How do you de-escalate who refuse to wear a mask in the library? The suggestion I gave earlier, just walk away. Maybe not the best suggestion because many of you are, the library director. But depending on the situation, and if someone else is really yelling and screaming, you can't debate, you can't argue with irrationality. You can't be rational to solve irrationality in that instance. Any other comments specifically regarding upset patrons?
This is Gina. I'll share an incident. So first day we opened, we had a longtime patron come in. And so we have kind of a table at the door. We call it our welcome table, but that's basically where everybody gets the lowdown of you're putting your mask and you're putting it on right. And here you go. You can have one if you want, or you can turn around and leave. And so she, of course, couldn't wear it for a medical reason. Well, then you can't come in. We aren't making exceptions for, quote, medical reasons, doctor's notes, or any of that stuff. But we do have alternatives. But she took the mask, put it on in the elevator, took it off on the top of the elevator, and basically after being reminded about 3 times, and perhaps a patron who thought they were being supportive of library staff, but probably inflamed the situation a little more, came down, talked to me, but essentially self-selected to leave the library, if you will. We don't call it storm out in a rage right now. They've chosen to leave at that point. So that was not a highlight of day one. However, staff did tell me a couple weeks later they saw her return, despite her claim that she was never going to return again. Had her mask on and had it on correctly the entire time. Was in and out pretty quickly, but we kind of felt that was a small success, that they took the importance of the policy, maybe not the importance, but they at least took the policy to heart, knew what was required. We didn't have to have that go around again, but still felt comfortable enough to come back to the library. So that's good. But yes, we don't call it storm out in a rage. We're like, they chose to leave at that point. And we fortunately have not had to make that choice for others yet, but we've come quite close. And so
Thank you, Gina, for sharing. I am glad to hear through the chat, through the comments, that most people have had positive interactions. Again, that's really nice. Unfortunately, the negative interactions do seem to stand out in everyone's mind. That's kind of human nature. Any other questions, concerns, or comments that you want to share on this topic?
This is Gina again. I promise it'll be the last time I talk. This was for Michelle, who brought her staff's concerns either. I might recommend that you contact the county health department and explain to them what steps you guys are taking and the things that you have put into play to help keep your staff safe, and get their third-party feedback on that as far as, you know, are there other things we could be doing? What do you consider of this situation? Is it, you know, are we putting them at the least risk as possible? Maybe if they heard that reassurance, or maybe you might learn something new, if that might help their feelings, their fear. So.
This is Lexi at Washington, still talking about same thing Gina was. Michelle, I think it was Michelle, you said that your staff is really stressed and you're worried that they're going to say, we can't do this. At risk of sounding harsh, I think my response might be kind of too bad. Like, as long as you are doing the things that is recommended by the county health department, you know, hand washing, hand sanitizer, wearing masks, wiping down high touch surfaces, that kind of thing. Like, part of our job in working at the library is to work with the public. And if they don't feel comfortable doing that, then libraries might not be the place for them to work at this moment in time. Like, we have to offer services, and it can't be dependent. It has to be dependent on safety, but it can't be dependent, I don't feel, on an individual staff member's comfort level with working with the public. That seems like a dangerous road to go down to me, having staff dictate what they will and will not do, I guess.
And I think they're going to say they're willing to do it curbside because they feel like patrons were getting everything they needed that way, that we were meeting our mission and our goals of the library. And so, but when you have 3 staff, and I don't know, maybe they're all 3 not going to tell me that, but if all 3 staff say, I can't train people right now to take over running the library. So if all 3 staff say we're not comfortable with them in the building.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean,
yeah.
Having your, if your staff leaves en masse, that's obviously a colossal problem. I would just, I don't know, that's really tough, because like you need your staff to be there so that you can keep the library open. But like I said, having staff dictate the parameters of library service would make me very, very nervous.
You do have a point, Lexi, and Michelle, I'm glad to hear that you are considering these concerns along with balancing library goals. And as director, you do need to do that. But Lexi does have a good point. So yeah, there's all kinds of fun for being library directors and managers, balancing everything, absolutely everything. So, okay, thank you, Kendall. We're going on to the next question. What are your plans for the next wave? Even regardless if your opinion is we are in wave 1 or wave 2, or maybe we'll have 20 different waves. Who knows? So anyone want to share your plans or your concerns or ideas? Oh, thank you, Sarah. Sarah's plan is to cry. Yep, mine too, Sarah.
This is Lexi again. I will be doing plenty of crying, I think. What's keeping me up at night, and I don't think anybody has a solution to this right now. What's keeping me up at night is the idea that the governor is going to say, like, okay, we're rolling back to phase 2 or whatever, and especially downstate, a lot of mayors are just going to say no. Like, I mean, there's no political will to roll back phase, especially downstate. So what are we going to do when the governor says we're in phase 2 and local governments say piss off, and then we have to decide, are we going to do what everybody else in our area is doing, or are we going to do what the governor's telling us to?
Very good answer.
So,
yeah, very good question.
I mean, I think as a local library district, we have some more autonomy, than those who are in a municipal situation. I mean, I still haven't opened my building yet here in Morton, so there's that. Although I've heard nothing about some rollback for the region today, and I would think that by now they would have announced something. So we're probably going to open tomorrow. But I've told my staff, even if we open the building, unless we're all sent home again, which I honestly don't think will happen. I feel like we can offer our book valet holds pickup service in a safe, no contact way. And so we would continue to offer services. I mean, we may at some point have to close the building down again, but we would continue to offer holds pickup services. We would increase our ebook limits on Hoopla again. We've rolled all those back. So, you know, unless we're all sent home, I mean, the thing about libraries is, I mean, we've all been mishmashing our own rules because there's been no specific library guidance. I mean, it's retail, it's restaurants, and, you know, we've been mishmashing those guidelines together to figure out in our own communities what's going to work best for us. And I mean, one of the reasons that we have not opened our building is that I feel that we are fulfilling our mission. I mean, we roll our new books out into our garden space once a week so people can still get that browsing feeling. We offered children, we've heard the most from parents who miss browsing for picture books because placing those on hold through RSA Cat, no offense, Kendall, is not the same as just going and finding all the dinosaur books or whatever. So, you know, we've offered a more custom service where they can email the youth services staff and, you know, get a grab bag of books. They can tell us some topics. They can just say, we want 15 picture books, whatever. So, I mean, I'm still trying to think creatively about library services. And I mean, we're fortunate that we have a large outdoor space that we can do things in, and that's relatively easy. And our patrons have been very pleased with what we have been able to do, even though we're still not letting them in the building at this time. We just finished doing a programming survey about what our programming plans are for the fall, and you know, patrons are just really happy with what they've been able to get this way. So, but yeah. So, I mean, I don't anticipate closing services down again unless we were all sent home again, to answer your actual question. Melody, I've not had pushback from people. I've had one or two. I mean, when people say, well, are you open? And we say, well, our building is closed, but we're available for services. What can we help you with? I mean, I had one person who was who called me in early July and was like, well, Pekin and Peoria are open. Why aren't you open? And I said, well, we're serving you the best we can through our services outside. Is there something you need inside? And he said, I want magazines. I said, well, we can place those on hold for you. And there was a 2-day lag between when he originally called to be angry and when I actually finally reached him again. And when I finally actually spoke with him, he was like, well, Pekin's not really open either. I mean, I can't sit down when I go in there. And I'm like, well, when you come back in our building, you're not going to be able to sit down either. So like, I have no chairs out right now. So anyway.
Yeah.
But other than that, all our comments have been very complimentary about, you know, they love the browsing in the garden. They love being able to schedule their book valet appointments. We're at the farmer's market each week. They love seeing us there. We do make and take crafts that we deliver. So it's worked out very well for us. And I think, I mean, my staff, as we talk about opening the building, are getting very stressed out and want to know if we can just keep doing what we're doing. But we're starting to get a little more political pressure. I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is. And I'm a little frustrated that there's not been any, like, it's been 4 days. Okay, what are we doing? Our numbers keep going up. Are we back to tier 1 of phase 4? Like what? And when are they going to announce it? Because I'm tired of these 5 p.m. announcements. Don't they know I like to have an evening? I mean, for real, people. End rant.
I know I will chime in and tell you that amongst the consortia, at least in Rails anyway, there is very little expectation from any library that any consortia manager had heard from that libraries are going to close again. Everybody basically had said, you know what, if the governor changes the rules and tries to shut all businesses down and everything, that everybody's plan in that case is to drop back to curbside service, but try and keep it going as best as they can for as long as they can with curbside, with the knowledge that the governor never actually directly said anything about libraries before. And so curbside service should meet pretty much any rollback other than phase 1 that the governor could potentially announce. So at that point in time, it's up to delivery. And as far as I know, Rails is hoping to be able to continue doing deliveries as well. So.
Well, thank you very much, Kendall. I'm certain a lot of people were thinking about that in the back of their heads, because it was not fun. The few of us libraries who did decide to reopen for a type of curbside or incredibly limited services, and yet delivery had not yet restarted. That wasn't fun. Oh, we're really used to delivery. We got used to that really, really quick. So.
Oh, what is going on there?
I think you have another image in front of your slides there, Kendall.
Should be fixed now.
Thank you. Kathy, is it Rogi? I apologize, Kathy. I've never heard your surname spoken. Kathy has shared that she is planning to purchase small pop-up tents to help with some of the weather during curbside. That's a really good idea. Depending on each individual library's your architecture, a small tent might be really helpful. And those are pretty inexpensive. So thank you, Kathy. Melody mentions that curbside will not be fun in the winter, and that is true. It won't. It won't be fun. But again, depending on the layout and the architecture of your building, the layout of your parking lot, you can always rethink something, meaning that the staff at my building, and many of you have been to the Dunlap Library, the staff was actually assuming that they would be going in and out the main front door when we first started talking about curbside service. And it took us a couple days and a couple times talking about it to realize, oh, wait a minute, no, let's go out the staff entrance, which is kept locked. And so the big thing is you need to keep your staff keys on you in your hand at all time. And yes, staff have gotten locked out of the buildings because they've forgotten their staff keys, but it's easier. That way my staff are literally not walking in the parking lot. They are walking 100% on the sidewalk to the car, to the patron's car, and then coming back. So little changes like that might need to look again at your layout, at your entrances and exits, and you'll be able to find a better option, perhaps. Oh, good. Glad to know that my staff aren't the only ones who have gotten locked out when doing curbside deliveries. Overall, if anyone else has any specific concerns or questions regarding the next wave, speak up. Like so many other things, and I've heard some of you say this, it is so difficult to plan because we don't know when the thing will happen. We don't know what the thing exactly will be. And when the thing does happen, we don't know what we will be, legally required to change. It's true that a couple months ago in March and April, during the shelter in place, we weren't legally required to close. Almost all of us did. So once again, not only RSA, but the RSA users group is here to help you. If something happens in your community or at your library and you really need some assistance, you don't know where to turn, you don't know how to make a decision, please feel free to email folks. Email any of us folks, and we will do the best to help you. Let's go on to the next question, Kendall. And okay, please do chime in, even if it's just on the chat. Who prints and mails through the U.S. Postal Service your billing notices? And if you have a set process, you don't have to type out your whole process in the chat, but say if you have a process and think about it, do you need settings fixed, especially based on what Kendall was saying earlier about some of the changes that are happening, or the changes that are just happening now with everything? Do you need some help? Do you need things fixed? Do you want to expand on that, Kendall?
Sure. So those of you that print out notices probably hopefully have already fixed the rolling issue where you pull up a group of notices and the first notice prints fine and the second notice is a line off and the third notice starts halfway down the page. We have settings that will fix that we can send to you. I got 2 different libraries contacted me in the past week, both of whom had rolling issues and were trying to figure out how they were supposed to be printing out their billing notices when they couldn't get the addresses to fit in the little mailer windows. And after some discussion, I was like, oh, here's what's going on. Let me send you these settings and that'll fix that. So they used to be out on the RSA website. I could not find them, so I emailed them. There'll be a cheat sheet going out. Anna's putting her hand up. Either went out or will be going out soon with that. The other reason why I mentioned that, and I wanted to make sure it was on the slide, a lot of school libraries, their computers are refreshed over the summer, and when they come back, they have to, if they didn't save their user settings, they have to reset everything up, and then they need to know how to set up the settings for printing reports. So we can help you with that if need be. The other question was, there was just, Peoria Public had asked, Roberta had asked me if I had any kind of sense of how many libraries were still printing notices out. And to be honest, I don't know. You know, I mean, people's processes day to day, we don't really know. So it's nice to see that there are several people who are still printing out notices. Julie's doing the adjust font size version. Yeah, the new settings, assuming you're on Windows 10, which all of you should be at this point in time. Assuming you're on Windows 10, you don't have to adjust the font size anymore with the new settings. Only mail to patrons that don't have email, good. I would assume then also, Melody, that when you guys get the email bounce backs from the system that says, hey, we could not deliver this, that you're going in and removing the email out of that patron's account. And now soon you'll be able to put a note on there to pop up to ask them for their new email when they come in the library next. Okay, good. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you chiming in with that. This one is new. It is not on the agenda. This was asked to me yesterday. I did not have the answer to it, so I went out to Robert to actually get the Rails version of this. But I was wondering, do any of you have problems with sticky labels coming off in delivery? And the kind of the genesis of this is that there are still libraries using tape and rubber bands. And I actually wasn't sure if that was still legal in delivery or not. Turns out that tape and rubber bands are legal in delivery as long as the tape is not touching the surface of the book. So the idea there would be that if you're putting your delivery label on the book and then putting a rubber band around it, that the tape would be between the rubber band and the book. When I initially got the question, I was like, "Ooh, I thought Rails had said that you weren't supposed to use rubber bands anymore," but they are apparently okay in some instances.
This is Lexi at Washington. We just switched to the adhesive labels, but we still have to use a rubber band because they're not sticky enough to stay on their own. And we got rid of the tape and rubber bands very recently by request from some other libraries, but we were using them because we could print our labels. And with the adhesive labels, we have to handwrite every single label, which is very time consuming and a real pain. So we switched, albeit reluctantly.
You need to get one of those $10 stamper things with your library name on it.
Well, we have that, but we still have to write down the other library's name every single time.
Yeah, I echo Lexi, that's what we do at Dunlap. We use rubber bands, honestly, just to keep the book shut. We use the rubber band to keep the book shut. We rarely put tape on anything. It's a rare situation. All I can say is I hope that Robert is able to see, he should be able to see where these items are coming from.
Oh no, we know who generally are sending the tape and rubber band ones, and I think he has been getting in contact with them who were taping directly to the item. I did not myself know what the rules were on that, and of course, if it's delivery stuff, I just generally ask because it's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there is a way to find, oh, Gina, yeah, it would be lovely to just print the transit slip on sticky receipt paper. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I would pay a lot of money for that.
So Rails a couple of years ago tried to develop a third-party transit label system. That did not work out because, of course, we have not only the 6 different consortia, all of whom do things differently, and it had to be customized for each one of us, but it would also have to be customized for each and every standalone library in Rails for it to be like super effective. And it required that every library using delivery have a new receipt printer that printed on sticky paper and had a supply of sticky paper, which gets very expensive very quickly. And so they decided that was probably not going to work out, even if they could have got the technology to work with all the various different library systems.
So Kendall, has Rails officially abandoned that, or just will reassess in another year? Because this is definitely something that could be very helpful.
Yeah, I think it's been backburnered for a while. Part of the problem is that some ILS systems do better printing out labels than others.
Okay.
And some don't. So like Carly's old system would generate sticky labels on sticky paper. Carly just migrated, and I don't know what Carly's new system does. I do know that Sierra will print out a very nice sticky label if people have sticky labels. But otherwise, most of the people are just doing the regular delivery labels anyway. In RSA's case, it would be another piece of software running on the computer, talking to a new sticky label machine that you would have to buy. And then you'd have to be set up so that every time you wanted to print a transit label, there would be extra steps to print it to the sticky paper. And that's it. It's a lot of work. Someone's hand is up. Whose hand? Michelle, your hand is up. Did you? Okay, okay. I just saw it pop up and I thought maybe you had a question. All right. Okay. We are back to me. So I'll give you the quick update on the strategic plan. The February meeting, we had great hopes on what we were going to get done this year. We did, we really did. Things changed. So here's the big things that we're going to work on outside of what Alyssa announced with trying to put that membership committee together. We're going to basically work on tech for the rest of the year. And when I say work on tech, RSA staff are going to be overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that we're trying to do this fall. So we've got the Symphony update. If we can ever get into our hosting facility, we might actually be able to install our new firewall, which means every one of you libraries needs to talk to us to tell us what your IPs are. RSA is in the middle of rolling out our new help desk. We're currently in our kind of design acceptance testing phase. This help desk will put together not only all of the help desk tickets that you guys send us, be they catalog requests or report requests or any of the new forms we'll be making, but it also serves as our CRM. We can put all of our notes and all of our intra-team tasking in there, and all of that belongs to a record, which belongs to a user, which belongs to a library. So when member services needs to come and do a visit for you, they'll be able to see what tickets you still have open, what questions you may have asked. Basically, we're building a hive mind. This is a lot of work, and it's going to require quite a lot of training on our part to get all of our staff up and running in it. This is a huge project. Hopefully by the end of this year, we will be 100% working in the new help desk and just referring back to old cases in the old help desk. Mostly this will be transparent to you libraries, other than us asking you to never send an email to a staff member that requires any amount of work, because that's just going to get forwarded into the help desk because that's where we need the information. I will remind you that if you have a report request, please use the report request form on the front page of the RSA website, and/or send your email to the help desk. Doug is out for several weeks, and if you send him an email asking for a report, it's not going to get done because no one's checking his email. We can't get in it, right? So if you need a report, that needs to go to the help desk. And as we transition into the new help desk, we will ask that all cases come through the help desk. That way we will be able to keep a history of them over time. So along with a new help desk means we have to rebuild some of our forms will need to be rebuilt. Erica's cataloging request form, which is by far the form that gets used the most. That form is currently hosted on a Rails server, and that hosting goes away at the end of this current fiscal year. So we have to rebuild that form by then. I've got some new software, and I'm hopeful that we have figured out now how to rebuild that form. So we'll do that. We'll also be building some additional, like, you know, I have a patron with a hold problem. We'll create a form for that. You know, I've got a general problem. We'll create a form for that. So we're going to try and build a lot more forms to kind of guide the information entry for when you guys have problems, for, you know, kind of frequently asked questions. We think that'll help some. It'll certainly speed things up because the form will ask you for a patron ID and a user ID and the date that the thing happened and what module you were in, versus now we get a ticket or an email to the help desk and it says, a patron came in and placed a hold and it didn't work, why? And then we respond back and go, what's the patron ID? What were they trying to put on hold? Do you have an item ID or a title? What day did this happen? So we can look in the history logs. So we can cut out several emails back and forth just by making a little bit better guided access for form stuff. And finally, something most of you won't notice, but your patrons in many cases will notice, is that we are redoing every notice, form, overdue, new item carousel, all these reports that run in the system, 2,000 plus individual reports, probably more like 3,000 or 4,000, a lot. There's a lot of reports. Every library has at least like 6 reports, if not more. That's like the absolute minimum number of forms we have to touch per library. So we are redoing all of those to item cat 3s from item types. So if you have a courtesy notice for videos, for example, that courtesy notice for videos was probably set up in most cases 10 years ago, 11 years ago, back before item type 3 existed. And every time we go in and add a new DVD type or a new Blu-ray type, we don't necessarily go back and touch 400 to 500 forms to add that DVD type in for your courtesy notices. So what we're doing now by assigning overdue books, overdue movies, courtesy notices for movies and things to item category 3, when we add new DVD item types or movie item types in the future, they will automatically get assigned to item category 3 movie, and your courtesy notice will actually catch those items, whether it's an item you have or one you're borrowing from another library. So this is where the patrons will see it the most. You may notice that when we get around to redoing all the book rivers, in that the new movies in your library list may be more accurate. Again, we've got that item type problem where every library has 2 or 3 new or more book river reports that run, and these were again set up based on item types before item cat 3 existed. And if you added new movie types after we set that report up, they're probably not showing in your book river. So this will just make things a lot more accurate. Unfortunately, it's a lot of work. I mean, Anna's crew, when they're not doing anything, are just pulling up reports and making changes, and they have to check every report in the system and go through the report and make sure it's all appears to be set up and not in a kind of a standard way. If it's set up in an odd way, then we have to go through and modify it and do a lot of work. So that's kind of a very long-term project as well, but we will eventually have all of these things redone. And again, it's not something you particularly in the libraries will notice unless you're looking at your new item carousels. You may see it there, but your patrons will appreciate it. On the member engagement front, what we have been able to do is we did have lots of things in there about engaging members in ways that did not require you to be either in our building or us being in your building. And thank you to the wonders of COVID-19. I think everyone is now very comfortable with Zoom. We have created quite a few new training sessions that are out on our YouTube page, and there are more being added all the time. We are converting basically all of our in-person training, or much of our in-person training, is being converted over to Zoom training. A lot of that has already started happening. We have added virtual office hours. We added that pulse report, which will probably, now that things seem to have settled out, as long as the data stays settled out, I'll probably back that off to a monthly report rather than every week report, because the data's kind of flatlined as it is right now. But again, that's just another way for you guys to understand how the system is kind of easing back in. So that's the kind of thing we've done on the member engagement front. Organizational effectiveness, we did standardize the hold pickup notices with the fancy notices. And the only reason why we can do the fancy notices for everybody is because basically everybody in the system, I think it was 6 libraries that were not standardized, but all the other libraries in the system had standardized on one hold notice with the exact same wording. And when that's the case, we can use the nice fancy new notice. For other notices, if you're not using the standard notice, we have to go through and create a custom notice for you. And the fancy notices have to be done. It's not just a little text file, it's an actual, we have to go back in and rewrite an HTML page and then run an additional report over the report we're already running. So we can't roll that out for all the reports unless everybody's using standardized stuff. So if you want to standardize your wording, wonderful. And again, the auto renews notice does not, there is no HTML notice for that. So even if you wanted to convert everything over, that one notice is still not going to be HTML. A lot of the other organizational effective stuff was these committee meetings and looking at membership fees and membership structures, and that has been delayed. We're going to start that up in October again. Jeff Brooks is the chair of that committee, as Alyssa mentioned. Our operating efficiency, like I said, the last meeting, the 3 new staff positions that we were going to pick up here in, well, this month basically was what we had hoped. Those have been delayed because nobody knows how much money is coming. So until the money situation clears up with Rails and the grants and income for the state, that's on hold. Again, lots of new videos. Staff continues to work remotely. RSA is we're only allowed to have 3 people in our building here in East Peoria at any one time. So I'm here all the time. I am the sacrificial lamb. Catalogers are basically in the building once a day for a very short amount of time to pick up materials that have been sent in to be cataloged and to drop off the things that they have done. And Anna's member services staff and James' systems staff kind of pop their heads in as needed. We have a calendar where we track all of this. So God forbid one of us comes down with COVID, we can figure out who was in the building at the same time or after they were there for tracking purposes. We're going to continue to work on all those system updates and the help desk. So again, for operating efficiency, it's very kind of tech focused for the rest of the year and has been for the last couple of months as we work around trying to normalize the system back out from all of the kind of COVID related mass changes and mass turnoffs that we had to do earlier in this year. And we'll end with good news. So I don't know how many of you saw the article, but Roberta Kolcheski from Peoria was named the ILA Librarian of the Year for 2020. Woohoo! Or an ILA, I think there is only one, right?
I think there is only one. I think they only name one. So
right.
There's
big
only
congratulations.
There can be only one. She's the Highlander for this year. For those of you who remember that group of movies. I think we're all of an age to know that movie. So congratulations, Roberta. It's yours again.
Mine again. While it is still very difficult to look into the future, if anyone would like to suggest items to talk about at our next meeting, which is November in the future, I have no idea what I will be doing, where I will be working, but to keep the positive energy, if anyone sincerely has any suggestions, feel free to type them in, feel free to email me. Since L2 is going through changes, I'm just reminding everyone of my email address. It is right there. If I spelled it correctly, it's right there in the chat. You can email me with suggestions, concerns, what you want to talk about. You can also, send a ticket to the help desk, of course, and say, this is what I want to talk about if you forget my email address. And even if it's small things that you don't want to put on the agenda, meaning you don't want to wait until November, but you have a concern about something, you have a concern about programming. You have a concern about your staff are going to mutiny if you ask them to do one more thing. Feel free to email me. I will not claim to have the answers, not at all, but I will do my best to partner you up with another RSA member who perhaps just went through that situation and could offer advice, or I can definitely point you to a person at RSA or Rails. As your new users group chair, I am happy to help where I can. I don't think I have anything else to add except thank you again for your patience during the meeting when I didn't quite know what I was doing. So there you go. I think I'm all talked out. If anyone desperately wants to hear me talk even more, you can on Saturday. I'm giving a talk about Laura Ingalls Wilder on Zoom. You'll hear my voice a lot. Other than that, I'm done.
All right. Our next meeting is the second Thursday of November. Again, we were rotating these meetings between the first and second week and the day of the week. So the Thursday, November 12th is the second Thursday of November. So, and again, we'll be doing it via Zoom. So we're all very familiar with this particular format at this point in time. And I thank you all for showing up and sticking with us. And again, if you haven't sent them to Laura, you can send them to me if you've got questions or thoughts or ideas for the next users group. We are always looking for good users group topics. So let us know. Or things for the RSA newsletter if you'd like to get them in there too. Anna will be very, very happy with you if you were to send her things. All right. Thank you much, everybody. I appreciate your time. And I will end the meeting.
Do we need to vote on adjourning, or is that not a thing with us?
No, we adjourn by acclamation.
Oh, okay. Yes, we're adjourning. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you, Kendall, for hosting.
Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
I have to figure out how to stop the recording.